I always wake up before my alarm goes off. It's a curse I've had since childhood. My body senses the sun rising long before the city does. But last month, I started waking up to something else. The first morning it was just a scratch, a faint red line down my forearm, as if I'd brushed up against a thorn bush. I blamed my cat, Whiskers, but she hadn't slept in my room that night. I shrugged it off, put on a bandage, and forgot about it. The next morning, there were 3 scratches, parallel, deeper. I changed my sheets, thinking maybe there was a spring poking through my old mattress. Nothing. By the end of the first week, I had a thin cut along my ribs. It stung every time I bent over. That's when I realized it wasn't random. These marks, they looked deliberate, almost careful. I checked my bedroom door, locked, windows sealed. Whiskers now stayed with my sister, since I blamed her the first time. But the marks kept coming. I started taking photos, documenting each fresh wound, as proof. I even set up my phone on a tripod by my bed, recording the whole night. The footage showed me sleeping soundly, never moving. No intruder, no sleepwalking. But every morning, a new scar bloomed like a rose petal on my skin. I went to a doctor. She suggested stress, maybe self-harm. I laughed. Why would I cut myself in perfectly straight lines while I'm unconscious? She just smiled sympathetically and prescribed sleeping pills. They didn't help. I told my friends. They all had theories, bed bugs, night terrors, even a poltergeist. I laughed with them. But inside, I was terrified. I started wearing long sleeves, even in the heat, just to hide the fresh wounds that never seemed to stop. Then last night, I dreamed of a mirror, and in that mirror, someone was cutting me. Someone who looked exactly like me. When I woke up this morning, the deepest wound yet was carved into my thigh, and this time, it spelled a word. Listen. I sat at the edge of my bed for what felt like hours, just staring at the word carved into my skin. Listen. The letters were clean, shallow but precise, as if someone had taken their time. The edges still oozed a thin line of blood that dripped onto my bed sheet. I called in sick to work. There was no way I could focus on spreadsheets and client calls when I had a word bleeding out of my thigh. I limped to the bathroom, lifted my phone, and took another photo, adding it to the growing album labeled Night Marks. My friends stopped replying when I showed them. They thought I was doing it to myself, even though the video recordings showed nothing. I couldn't blame them. If I hadn't felt the sting of these wounds myself, I wouldn't believe it either. I went through the footage again, frame by frame. Hours of me lying there motionless, breathing slow, blankets rising and falling. But at exactly 3:12 a.m., the screen flickered, a single frame of static, and then it was just me again, sleeping. What the hell happens at 3:12? I needed answers. So that night, I set up my phone to stream the feed, straight to my laptop in the living room. I made myself stay awake on the couch, fighting the weight in my eyelids. I held a mug of cheap instant coffee, like a lifeline, eyes fixed on the grainy video. 2:58 a.m., nothing. 3:05 a.m., still nothing. 3:12 a.m. The feed glitched. A shiver ran through me as the image dissolved into static. Then, for a split second it cleared. The me on the bed was still lying there. But now I wasn't alone. There was someone leaning over me, someone wearing my face. Its eyes were open, wide, glassy. Its lips moved, whispering words I couldn't hear through the silent feed. Then, in one smooth motion, it lifted my arm and drew something across my forearm with a glinting silver blade. My stomach lurched. I slammed the laptop shut and ran to my room. It was empty. Just me, just the echo of my own ragged breathing, and the faint scent of blood in the air. On my forearm, fresh crimson lines shaped another word. Stop. Stop what? Sleeping, dreaming, recording? I didn't know. But I could feel something changing inside me. Every night, the wounds grew deeper, the words clearer. I realized then I wasn't alone in my own skin. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after that. I tried everything. Energy drinks, blasting music, pacing circles in my tiny living room. I even taped my eyelids open for an hour before the burning forced me to stop. But exhaustion is a patient predator. No matter how hard you fight, your body eventually betrays you. The third night, I passed out on the couch, fully clothed, lights on. When I woke up, the sun was already streaming through the blinds. For a moment, I almost believed I'd beaten it. Then I felt the sting under my shirt. I stumbled to the bathroom, pulled off my t-shirt, and turned to the mirror. Across my chest, etched in shallow, angry cuts, was a new word: look. It felt like a command, a dare. I ran my hands over the marks, fresh, raw, scabbing at the edges. They felt real because they were real. But every time I tried to catch myself doing it, I failed. It was like a blackout, or like someone else was driving my body while I dreamed. I started noticing other things too. Little shifts in my apartment, dishes left in the sink that I didn't remember using, a new crack in the bathroom mirror, the door to my tiny coat closet slightly ajar when I knew I'd closed it. Worst of all was my phone. One morning I found a video on my phone that I didn't record. It showed me, except not really me, a version of me, awake in the middle of the night, staring directly into the camera lens. The eyes were wrong, too wide, too still. The figure raised a hand and traced a finger across its chest, mouthing the word "look" again and again until the clip ended in static. I called my mom. I needed her voice, her logic, but when she picked up, she sounded exhausted, worried. She asked if I'd been sleeping enough. If I'd seen a doctor, what would I say? Hey, I keep waking up with words carved into me and videos of myself that I don't remember filming. Can you prescribe something for that? I booked an appointment anyway. The earliest they could see me was in 2 weeks. 2 more weeks of this. That night, I set up more cameras. 2 phones, my laptop, and my old camcorder from college, all pointing at my bed. I left the lights on. I made myself a promise. Tonight I will catch it. Tonight I will see. I lay there, heart pounding so loud, I thought it might drown out any sounds from the rest of the apartment. I tried to stay awake, but sleep took me anyway, soft, merciless, and sudden. When I woke up, all the cameras were turned off. Each battery was dead, drained down to 0. My laptop screen was cracked down the middle, like it had been slammed shut with force. And on the wall above my bed, in thick black marker, a single word had been scrawled: mine. After that night, I stopped pretending this was all just stress or sleepwalking. There's a difference between a mind that's breaking down and a mind that's being broken into. I was sure now, something was in here with me, something that knew when my guard was down. I started sleeping with the lights on in every room, not just the bedroom. It didn't help. The next morning, the word "mine" was gone from the wall, like it had never been there. I ran my fingers over the paint, half expecting to feel the rough drag of marker ink. Nothing. Clean, pristine, like my brain had conjured it just to mess with me. But the cuts on my chest were still there, fading, but real. I called in sick to work and spent the entire day trying to find answers online. I searched sleep paralysis, parasomnias, dissociative disorders. The closest thing I found was a thread on an old horror forum. Stories of people who woke up with scratches or bruises they couldn't explain. Most replies were jokes, ghosts, demons, "You're possessed LOL." But one comment stuck with me: if you see the word, it sees you. If you write the word, it owns you. It was signed with a username that didn't lead anywhere. The account was deleted. I refreshed the page, but the comment was gone. I needed air. I needed proof that I hadn't lost my mind entirely. So I grabbed my phone, forced myself out the door, and walked until my legs hurt. When I came back, I saw it. On my apartment door, someone had stuck a yellow post-it note, one word, in the same sharp block letters as the carvings on my skin. Look. I tore it down and checked the hallway. Empty. No footsteps. No neighbors peeking out. Just silence. I must have stood there for 10 minutes, keys in my shaking hand, staring at the doorknob. When I finally pushed the door open, every light in the apartment was off. I know I left them on. I turned them all back on. I checked every closet, every cabinet. I don't know what I expected to find, some figure lurking behind my coats, whispering mine under its breath. At some point, I must have dozed off on the couch. The dreams came back immediately. In the dream, I was standing in my bedroom, staring at myself asleep on the bed. Except, it wasn't really me. It was that thing with my face, my body, but the eyes were empty. Its skin was pale and waxy, and its chest rose and fell with slow, deliberate breaths. I felt myself being pulled toward it, like gravity, like drowning. The closer I got, the more I saw. Tiny cuts all over its body, forming words I couldn't read. When I reached out to touch its arm, its eyes snapped open. Black pits, not even eyes, just holes. It smiled, my smile, and then it whispered in my voice, "I told you." A sudden noise jolted me awake. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from an unknown number. "Look behind you." My breath caught in my throat. I didn't move at first, just stared at the glowing screen, like it might change its mind. Then, slowly, I turned my head. Behind me, taped to the back of the couch, was a photograph. It was me, asleep in bed. The angle was impossible, like it had been taken from inside my closet, through a crack in the door. Scrawled across the bottom, in the same jagged writing, "You are mine." I jumped up, grabbed my keys, and ran. I didn't even lock the door. I drove to my mom's house 3 towns over, ignoring every red light. She didn't ask questions when she opened the door and saw me. Pale, sweating, shaking like a leaf, she gave me her spare room. I stayed up all night, but the sun still rose, and no new wounds appeared. For the first time in weeks, I felt almost safe, until I checked my phone the next morning. A new photo, me, asleep in my mom's guest bed. A new word, carved just above my heart, "Ours." I didn't go back home after that. I couldn't. Every part of me wanted to believe I was just hallucinating, that I'd finally broken under the weight of insomnia and anxiety. But the photos, they were too real. The words carved into my skin, they healed too slowly to be anything but real. I stayed at my mom's for 3 days. She kept asking questions. "Do you need to see someone? Should I take you to the ER? But how do you explain to your mother that you're terrified of sleeping, that you're afraid of your own reflection?" The third night, I tried to stay awake. I made coffee, watched TV until my eyes burned. Around 4 a.m., I slipped into uneasy half-sleep on her couch. This time, the dream didn't waste time. I was in my childhood bedroom. Everything exactly as it was when I was 7. The faded rocket ship wallpaper, the Lego pieces scattered under my feet, the stuffed bear I'd lost years ago. But the bed was different. There was someone under the blankets, my shape, my hair. I tried to pull the blanket back, but it clung to the figure's skin like wet cloth. When I finally yanked it free, I stared into a face that was off. My face, but too pale, too stretched. The eyes rolled back, showing only whites. Its lips moved. "Don't you want to see?" It lifted its hand and pressed its index finger to my chest. I felt a burning pain, like a blade slicing through muscle. I looked down. Another word was forming in my skin, blood seeping out letter by letter. "Ours." I woke up screaming. My mom burst into the living room, panicked, demanding answers. I didn't know what to tell her. I just pointed at my chest, there, fresh and ragged, the same word from the dream. She drove me to the hospital that morning. The ER doctor asked if I'd self-harmed. I told him no. He called in a psychiatrist. They asked me if I heard voices. I lied. I said no. When they left the room, I grabbed my clothes and ran. I couldn't stay. Hospitals have beds. Beds mean sleep, and sleep means them. I checked into a cheap motel an hour out of town. It felt safer somehow. No memories, no family to protect, no one to watch me, but peeling wallpaper and the buzz of flickering neon outside. I covered every mirror with towels. I wedged a chair under the doorknob. I left the TV on, the volume just loud enough to drown out my thoughts. That night, I recorded myself sleeping. If I couldn't stop it, I'd at least see it. I set up my phone on the nightstand, hit record, and lay down. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember the dream. I was standing outside the motel, in the rain, barefoot. The parking lot was empty, except for my car and a figure standing beside it. Same height, Same hair, same clothes. Me, I called out. But the figure didn't move. I walked closer. The rain stung my skin like needles. When I was close enough to see its face, it looked up. My eyes, my mouth. But not my expression. Its grin was wide, unnatural, splitting my cheeks almost to my ears. It spoke without moving its lips. Don't you get it? We're the same. You dream me. I live you. I stumbled back. The figure lunged forward, pressing its forehead to mine. In that split second, I felt everything. Its thoughts, its hunger, its need to be me. I woke up gasping for air, drenched in sweat. My phone was still recording. Hands trembling, I hit stop and replayed the footage. The screen was dark at first, then a shape, a pale arm, reaching into the frame, pressing against the lens. Then the faint outline of my face, except the eyes were pitch black, hollow voids. My voice whispered from the speaker, mine, ours, yours. I dropped the phone. When I looked down, new letters were carved into my thigh. US. I didn't leave the motel for days. I don't even remember the first two of them. I only remember scraps. The way the rain banged against the window, like desperate fingers. The buzz of the neon sign, bleeding red light through the curtains. The bitter taste of cheap coffee gone cold beside the bed. I kept the recording on every night, but by the third day I couldn't bring myself to watch the footage anymore. It always showed the same thing. Me sleeping, then something moving just out of frame. Sometimes it whispered my name, or what used to be my name, with a wet, gurgling hiss. Sometimes it just stared. By the fourth night, my body couldn't take it anymore. Exhaustion has a way of kicking the door down, no matter how many locks you slide into place. I tried to chain myself to the bed, literally. Bought a cheap dog leash from a gas station and strapped it around my ankle. Didn't matter. I woke up standing in the motel hallway. The leash was still clipped to my ankle, snapped clean in half. I felt the word before I saw it. A searing heat across my collarbone. In the cracked bathroom mirror, I read it backward. Belong. My head felt like it was full of static. No more time to run. If I was going to survive this, if there was anything left of me worth saving, I had to find out where it came from. I went back through my childhood journals. Pages and pages of scribbles, stories about imaginary friends, drawings that looked more like autopsies than kids' doodles. I found one entry from when I was 8. I see the other me when I sleep. He wants to come out and play, but he says I'm too loud. I flipped through my dad's old boxes in the attic when I snuck home for an hour. Found a single photo tucked behind a family Christmas card. A blurry Polaroid of me, asleep in bed. Except there were 2 shadows on the wall. Mine, and a taller one, looming over the pillow. On the back, in my dad's neat, careful handwriting. Keep him quiet, keep him safe, keep him sleeping. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear my skin off and dig this thing out with my bare hands. Instead, I checked myself into a sleep clinic. I told the doctor I had a rare sleepwalking disorder. I lied about the cuts, the voices, the growing gaps in my memory. I just wanted them to watch me, to see it, catch it, stop it. They wired me up like a broken puppet. Electrodes on my scalp, sensors on my chest, a little infrared camera pointed right at my bed. If anything unusual happens, I told the nurse, wake me up, no matter what. She gave me a soft, pitying smile. Of course. I drifted off before I knew it. Drugged maybe, or just too tired to fight anymore. The dream came as always, but clearer. I stood in a room I didn't recognize. 4 concrete walls, no windows, just a single chair bolted to the floor. In the chair, me, older, hollow-eyed, arms strapped down with rough leather. His skin twitched, crawling with tiny black veins. When he looked up, it was like looking into a funhouse mirror of rot and regret. "Do you want to see it?" he rasped. "See what?" I asked, my voice echoing in the concrete cell. "Where we go when you sleep," he grinned, splitting his lips until they bled. "Where you put me every night." He leaned forward until his cracked forehead touched mine. 1,000 images slammed through my skull at once. A field under black stars. A house with no doors, only mirrors that breathed. A figure standing at my bedroom window, tapping. waiting for the dreamer to open the door. When I woke up, the sleep techs were all gone. The clinic lights were out. The monitors in my room buzzed with dead static. I stumbled into the hallway. Every room, empty, bed sheets stained with something dark. Scratch marks along the walls, like someone had been dragged away screaming. In the main observation room, the big screen flickered. I saw myself, tangled in wires, eyes wide open, but I wasn't moving. My reflection turned to face the camera and smiled. I looked down. A fresh word burned across my forearm. Almost. I think it means it's almost here, almost free, almost me. I didn't remember how I got back to my apartment that night. One moment I was standing in that empty sleep clinic. The next, I was on my bathroom floor. The word almost still raw and angry on my arm. I don't know what was worse, the pain or the knowing that I hadn't done it to myself. I stumbled to the sink and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked up, my reflection didn't match. It didn't blink when I did. It smiled when I didn't. I smashed the mirror. Glass rained into the sink, shimmering in the flickering bathroom light. But in every shard, there he was, the other me, the one I'd been locking away every night since childhood. And now he was so close I could almost feel his breath on the back of my neck. I slept on the couch that night, if you could call it sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard him humming. A lullaby I half remembered from when my mother used to sit at my bedside, her voice soft and warm. But now it was cold, twisted, mocking. When I opened my eyes, at 3:33 a.m., always 3:33, I wasn't alone. He stood by the window, a silhouette against the streetlight glow. Tall, familiar, a shifting mass of my features, stitched together wrong, as if someone had assembled me from memory and gotten the details just slightly off. "Why are you here?" I croaked. He turned, and his grin split his face like a paper mask, tearing at the seams. "You called me," he rasped. "You always do, when you sleep." I tried to stand, but my legs refused. He came closer, the air bending around him, buzzing like a dying light bulb. "You're tired of it, aren't you?" His voice was my voice, just buried in static and rot. "You're tired of the cuts, the bruises, the wondering what you did in the dark." I wanted to scream that I hadn't done anything, that he was the one who did it all. But he leaned down, his cold breath brushing my cheek. "We did it, together. You just don't remember." His finger traced the word on my arm, the half-healed letters that still pulsed like a heartbeat. "Almost ready," he hissed. "Almost home." When I woke up, it was noon. The front door was wide open. Mud tracked across the carpet. A trail of bloody footprints led from the couch to the hallway, then vanished. I checked my phone. No calls, no messages, except one, an audio file, time-stamped 3:33 a.m., hands shaking. I pressed play. At first, just static, then a voice, mine. "Do you want to trade?" it asked. A pause, then the other voice. "Not yet, you're still waking up." I slammed my phone down and paced the apartment until the sun dipped low and the shadows came crawling back. I can't trust my own sleep anymore. I can't trust my own skin. I did the only thing I could think to do. I went to my childhood home. The place was abandoned, windows boarded up, weeds swallowing the front steps. Inside, the air was stale, like an attic sealed for decades. I found my old room almost untouched, same wallpaper peeling at the corners, same bed, smaller than I remembered, same closet door, the one I always swore moved at night. I ripped it open. Inside, scrawled across the back wall, in a child's handwriting, "He's good when you're awake. He's hungry when you sleep." Beneath it, a crude drawing, 2 stick figures, one inside a box, labeled me, the other outside, grinning wide. And next to it, the word, trade. I don't know what my parents knew, what they did to keep him locked away, but they're gone now, and the walls are thin. And every night, my eyes close a little longer, and the other me waits. I slept in my old room that night, if you can call what I did sleeping. Every creak of the floorboards made my heart kick against my ribs. I left the closet door open, just to make sure it didn't open on its own. But the worst part was, it didn't matter. I woke up anyway, not in my bed, but on the basement floor. Dust thick in my nose, concrete cold and damp beneath my cheek. He had dragged me here. I sat up. On the far wall, lit by the bare bulbs swinging overhead, was a mural I swear hadn't been there before. My life, painted crudely, almost like a child's scrawl. Mom smiling, Dad holding me, then me, older, sleeping, while a shadow version of me crept out from my body. Over and over, a pattern, the real me slumbering, the other me feeding. In the corner of the mural, a door, small, cracked open, with a word written above it. Trade. I ran my fingertips across it, paint flaking beneath my nails. My pulse was thunder in my ears. He's real, I whispered into the empty basement. He's always been real. Behind me, a floorboard creaked. I turned, but nothing was there. No, not nothing. A mirror. One I didn't remember from my childhood. Tall, gilt frame, glass smudged with time. And my reflection wasn't alone. There he was, the other me, standing behind me, fingertips brushing my shoulder, eyes hungry and black. "Let me in," he whispered. "I'm so tired of waiting." I stumbled back, heart slamming in my throat. The basement felt smaller now, walls closing in. Somewhere upstairs, the front door slammed. Once, twice, 3 times. Like the house was breathing. I looked at my reflection again. It smiled. I didn't. It moved. I stayed frozen. Then it raised its hand, palm pressed flat against the glass. And slowly, a word bloomed on the mirror's surface, like frost creeping across a window in winter. Tonight, I bolted up the basement stairs, out into the night air. I didn't take my bag, my phone, nothing. Just my keys, and the gnawing dread that sleep would find me, no matter where I ran. I drove for hours, rural roads that blurred into endless darkness. My eyes felt like sandpaper, each blink heavier than the last. I couldn't stop seeing him. My reflection in every road sign, every rear-view glance. Closer, hungrier. At a gas station bathroom, I splashed water on my face and stared into the cracked mirror above the sink. This time, I didn't even see myself anymore. Only him. He was grinning, that same rotten lullaby humming at the edge of my mind. "We're almost there," he said, lips moving in perfect sync with mine. "You've always known where this road ends." I slammed my fist into the mirror, shards raining down into the dirty sink. My knuckles split, blood trailing down my wrist. New marks to add to the map of scars that I could never remember making. I found an old motel off the interstate, the kind with flickering neon that buzzed like a dying insect. Room 12. Thin blankets, thinner walls. A bed that smelled like stale sweat and regret. I locked the door, pushed the dresser in front of it, barricaded myself like a child hiding from a monster under the bed. But deep down, I knew. The monster wasn't under the bed. It was the bed. It was the sleep. And the more I fought it, the stronger it became. I sat on the floor, back pressed to the headboard, eyes fixed on the cheap motel mirror across from me. No reflection, not yet, but I could hear him breathing. Outside, a storm rolled in, wind rattling the window, rain lashing the thin glass. Inside, my eyelids drooped. "Stay awake," I begged myself, voice cracking. But his lullaby was already in my head, wrapping around my mind like barbed wire wrapped in silk. "Sleep," he whispered, from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Sleep, and let me wear your skin." I gripped the fresh cuts on my arms, willing the pain to anchor me. "You can't trade what's already gone," I hissed back. But the darkness didn't care, and when I finally closed my eyes, the last thing I saw was my reflection in the window, smiling wide, teeth too many for one mouth. When I woke up, it was still dark. Or maybe I never really woke up. The motel room looked the same. Same peeling wallpaper, same flickering light above the mirror, but something was off. The walls seemed to breathe, inhaling and exhaling around me. I glanced at my arms. The fresh cuts were gone. Smooth skin where the wounds should have been. My mouth tasted like metal, my tongue dry and heavy. Across the room, the mirror rippled, like the surface of a pond, catching a stone. He stepped out, Not a reflection now, not a shadow. The other me stood there, flesh and bone, wearing my face like a mask that fit too tight. His eyes were all wrong, pupils blown wide, black swallowing every bit of white. And that smile, God, that smile. "We finally meet," he said. His voice was my voice, but wrong. Like a recording played backward. "You've given me so many beautiful nights, so many dreams to feed on." I tried to move, but my body was lead. My fingers twitched uselessly at my sides. He crouched down, inches from my face. I could see the scars I didn't remember making, etched into his skin. My skin. "You always wondered where they came from," he whispered, tracing a finger along my jaw. "They're the doorway, you fool. Little offerings, tiny trades." He pressed his forehead against mine. The world around us shuddered. The cheap motel walls, flickering between real and something else. Corridors lined with mirrors, countless versions of myself staring back. Some smiled, some screamed, some just wept. "You sleep," he said. "I wake." "Why me?" I croaked. He tilted his head, mock confusion creasing his brow. "Who else?" His eyes darted to my chest, to my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. "You're so full of stories, regret, secrets you can't bear to carry. You're delicious." He pressed a palm flat against my chest. My heartbeat slowed under his touch, like a song winding down. "No," I gasped. "Please." "Shh," he hissed. "Just sleep. I'll keep you safe. I'll live the life you're too afraid to live." Suddenly the walls split open. Not the motel anymore, but my childhood bedroom. I was back in my bed, age 7, blankets pulled up to my chin. In the corner, the closet door swung open, hinges creaking like bones snapping. Out stepped the other me, smaller now, a child's size, wearing my old pajamas. His face was a blur of shadows, his mouth stitched shut, but I could feel the words pouring into my mind. "Trade places," he said without speaking. "Trade stories, trade scars." The air went thick, like I was drowning in my own breath. I tried to run. My feet sank into the carpet like wet cement. The other me walked toward me, arms outstretched. "No more waking up alone," he promised. "No more nights wasted." When he touched my face, I felt every cut I'd ever found on my skin open up again. Tiny mouths gasping for air. "Sleep," he said. "Sleep forever." I don't remember screaming, but I know I did. I woke up on the bathroom floor of the motel, lights buzzing above me. Blood trailed down my forearms. New marks, fresh. My reflection in the bathroom mirror stared back, but it was just me this time. My real eyes, red-rimmed and hollow. But in the corner of the mirror, faint and flickering, I saw him, smiling, waiting. A single word written in the condensation. Tonight, I stumbled outside into the parking lot. Dawn was breaking, gray light bleeding into the sky. My car sat where I left it, keys still in the ignition. I looked at my hands. They were shaking so badly, I almost dropped them. "He's real," I whispered. "He's coming through me." I drove for hours, mind half blind with exhaustion and terror. Every signpost, every passing car window showed him, lurking in the reflections, closer each time. And I knew the final trade was coming. Tonight. When the sun falls, so will I. The sun fell behind the horizon like a dying ember. I sat alone in my car, parked at the edge of an old service road I didn't even remember driving to. The sky overhead flickered between dusk and something darker, a color I didn't have a name for. In the rearview mirror, my eyes looked almost normal, but I knew he was there, closer than ever. I could feel him behind my ribs, pacing, sharpening his smile. I turned the key. The engine didn't start. Instead, the radio crackled to life, static whispering through the speakers. Underneath it, my voice, his voice, coiled like a snake in my ear. "No more scars," he promised. "One last dream, then you can rest." I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing my palms against my ears. The cuts on my arms burned like firebrands. My pulse pounded. But whose pulse was it now? When I opened my eyes again, I was no longer in the car. I stood in my childhood backyard, the swing set rusted and swaying without wind. The air smelled like rain and dirt, just like the night my father left. At my feet, I saw footprints, small at first, growing larger, leading toward the shed that hadn't stood in that yard for decades. A child's laugh echoed behind me. My laugh. I turned. There he was, the other me, 7 years old, knees scraped raw, hair stuck to his forehead. He smiled. But the stitches were gone now, his mouth opened too wide, teeth small and needle sharp. "Come see," he said, voice layered with every age I'd ever been. "Come see where the stories go." He turned and ran. I followed. Each step dragged like my shoes were sinking into the past. Inside the shed, candles burned on every shelf. Hundreds of tiny flames flickering around piles of things. Old toys, torn photographs, bloodied rags, pieces of me. In the center of the shed, a bed. My bed. Sheets white and pristine, except for the black hole in the center. A yawning void where the pillows should be. "Lie down," he said. Trade places. I fell to my knees. I was so tired. Every bone, every thought felt soaked in concrete. He put a hand on my shoulder, and I felt his heartbeat. It was mine, stronger than mine, hungry. "Sleep," he said. "You won't wake up alone anymore." I crawled onto the bed. The mattress swallowed me whole, softness turning to teeth. I sank deeper and deeper, darkness filling my lungs. Above me, I saw his face, my face, peering in from the other side. For the first time, he didn't smile. He just watched. "Thank you," he whispered, "for letting me live." I tried to speak, but the void wrapped around my mouth, silencing me forever. When the motel maid found the car the next morning, the driver's seat was empty. Keys in the ignition. Radio softly playing static. In the back seat, there was a faint outline in the upholstery, like someone had slept there for years, like they'd never left. They say dreams are where we escape, but some dreams don't end. Some dreams eat you alive. And now, when you close your eyes, maybe you'll see me, smiling.